Who's next for Steve Erceg and who's next for Alejandro Pantoja after UFC 301? I saw that Steve Erceg has now been ranked at number 9, which I think is disgraceful, and I think he should be ranked much, much higher, but we'll talk about that in a second. I was going to make a whole main card breakdown of who's next for everyone on the main card, but I think that's too much. I really don't care about this main card of a fight night. I'm not even going to call it a pay-per-view, a fight night which just happened. The only matchups I care about are this one and the Jose Aldo fight. Jose Aldo, I think he should fight Henry Cejudo next. I've already posted a video talking about Umar versus Sandhagen where I talk about Aldo's next fight, so I'm not going to talk about that too much, but I think Aldo should fight Henry Cejudo. If you want to know more about that, you can see my previous video I posted about the Umar versus Sandhagen fight that just got announced. Anyways, let's talk about Pantoja and Erceg. I think there are a lot of matchups the UFC could do, right? The most likely matchup for Pantoja is probably Amir Albazi in Abu Dhabi. That's how I see it. Or Muhammad Mokaev, because he just got a fight announced for Manel Kape, right? So Mokaev versus Manel Kape for the UK is either announced or being targeted. I don't know which one it was. I saw it just now on my phone, but I don't remember which one it was. I think it's been announced, so I think it's been confirmed. If Mokaev beats Kape, will he get that title shot? It depends how he beats him, right? If he beats him in a boring way, maybe not. If he dominates him and submits him, then maybe it'll be between him and Amir Albazi, right? But it's probably going to be Albazi. Albazi's higher ranked than Mokaev right now. Albazi just beat Kai Kara-France. That was a brutal robbery. He should not have won that fight, but he beat him technically on paper. He beat Kai Kara-France. Amir Albazi versus Pantoja next in Abu Dhabi is probably what they're going to do. Or Pantoja versus Mokaev, right? I wouldn't be against either of those. In an ideal world, this is not going to happen. But what I personally would love to see, again, it's not going to happen, is Pantoja Erceg 2 in Perth this time. That would be great. Especially because I think Erceg won that fight, man. And I know I already made like a huge rant about that, so I'm not going to talk about that here, right? I think Erceg won that fight, and I think it's not even arguable. I don't even see how you can argue it for Pantoja. The only round that I think could swing Pantoja is round 3. But I think round 5, honestly, after rewatching it, I think round 5 is Erceg, man. With round 3, there's some strike disparity there. You could give it to Pantoja, although Erceg had the more damaging shots. But with round 5, the strike disparity is very small. So the damaging shots are a big factor there. I'm not going to talk about it too much, like I said, but I think Erceg wins that fight hands down 48-47, if not 49-46. So I think a rematch would be nice. It'd be nice. Unfortunately, I don't think this matchup has enough hype to even get a rematch. And I also think the UFC doesn't want to do that. They probably don't want to do that, which is why they've ranked Erceg at 9. If they rank them higher up, then there could be an argument, okay, rematch time. Erceg's like ranked number 3, but they ranked him at 9. I think that's like a sign that, okay, Erceg, you're not getting a title shot. Anyways, what's next for Erceg then? Okay, Pantoja's going to fight in Abu Dhabi in October. What's next for Steve Erceg? I think Steve Erceg should get a high-ranked fighter in Brandon Moreno or Brandon Royval against a high-ranked top 5 opponent to call for another title shot, right? If they're not going to give him a rematch, that's fine. I don't expect them to. Like I said, I would want them to, ideally, but it's probably not going to happen. So the most realistic and best course of action for Steve Erceg is either Brandon Moreno or Brandon Royval. Either, I mean, maybe at like UFC 306 in the Sphere or on the Perth card, right? Those cards are like back-to-back, 305 and 306. It could make sense to put him on Perth. If it's against Moreno, putting him in the Sphere for Mexican Independence Day also makes sense, right? Like that's, I think, probably what the UFC will do. I think that's the most logical matchup for the UFC. Brandon Moreno versus Steve Erceg, probably in the Sphere. For some reason, I don't feel like they're going to put this on the Perth card. I feel like if it's versus Brandon Moreno, they'll put him on the Sphere. Maybe because Brandon Moreno is a bigger star to the Mexicans than Steve Erceg is to the Aussies, because Steve Erceg's kind of still, even after that performance, he's still kind of a small name. He's not a huge name. It's only his 4th fight in the UFC. They'll probably put it on the Sphere. So that's how I see it happening. I see Erceg versus Moreno, probably, not Royval, I see Moreno. Erceg versus Moreno in the Sphere, and Pantoja versus, I'm going to say, Albazi in Abu Dhabi. That's how I see it playing out. Or Mokaev, personally. I actually, upon thinking about it, if Mokaev beats Manel Kape, I think he'll jump Amir Albazi for the title shot. That's just how I feel it is. So I'm going to go, I think they're going to do Mokaev, Pantoja in Abu Dhabi, and I think they're going to do Erceg versus Moreno in the sphere. So those are my thoughts on matchups that will happen, but I want to take a second to talk about Erceg being put at number 9. I think that's honestly very stupid. I really don't understand the logic that goes behind it. I know he was number 10, and then he lost. So on paper, it doesn't make sense. Why would he boost him up? He had a close fight with the champion. He beat the champion, dude. He beat the champion. He won that fight on damage. He should be ranked high, right? He should be ranked higher. He should be ranked like 5, maybe like higher than 9. What's 9? Why is he 9? He did better against Pantoja than Royval did, and Royval's in the top 5. If that's any measure of where Erceg should be, I think Erceg should most definitely be in the top 5. And if not, he should get a top 5 opponent. He should not be fighting, and he should not be fighting like Maciusz Nicolau. He should not be fighting Alex Perez. He should not be fighting no can like that. He should not be fighting nobody. He needs to fight someone that will put him right in line for a title shot if he's not going to get that rematch. Because I do think that fight was close enough where I would love to see it again. However, the UFC probably will not do that, right? But I think they've disrespected him with the rankings. I think he definitely won that fight. He definitely put up a good enough fight to be ranked higher than 9th. Right? Royval, again, he got dominated by Pantoja. Dominated. Right? And I know that's not a measure because Royval was already ranked high before. You can't measure rankings like that. But Erceg needs to be behind the rankings, man. He proved himself. He proved he was not just some undeserving guy. Yeah, I take that back. Technically, he was undeserving, but he's proved that he can scrap with the champion. He scrapped with the champion, right? He stood with the champion. He beat the champion. I'm going to keep saying he beat the champion. He beat the champion. He proved that he belongs in the top as a top contender in the UFC. He should be given a high ranking. The way the UFC does the rankings is so baffling to me. They just put Jose Aldo at number 8, which I spoke about in my video about Umar versus Corey. They put Jose Aldo at 8 for whatever reason. Like, Jose Aldo has proved himself before, right? Like, this is a different story. Steve Erceg, he hadn't proved himself before this fight, but then he proved himself in the fight. With Jose Aldo, he's beat multiple guys, multiple ranked opponents. He's beaten Chito Vera, who's ranked like number 4 right now for whatever reason. Who has Chito Vera beat to be ranked number 4? Like, the way the UFC does the rankings is honestly just baffling, and it just serves to kind of hype up whichever fighter they want to hype up, right? Like, they were pushing what's his face again, Chito, in the rankings. They were pushing him high in the rankings because of the fight with O'Malley. They didn't want to make it look like O'Malley's fighting a bum, right? He is a bum. Chito is a bum. But they didn't want to make it look like that, so they pushed Chito up in the rankings. They pushed him to the top 5 when he didn't deserve to be in the top 5. He had no claim to be in the top 5. Who has he beaten in the rankings to be in the top 5? Pedro Munoz? He got dominated. By Corey Sandhagen. And then he got the title shot before him, and now he's ranked just 2 underneath him. He lost to Song Yadong, and he's above Song Yadong. He lost to Jose Aldo, he's above Jose Aldo. Like, Cheeto's just boosting in the rankings. That way it looks like, oh, look at, O'Malley beat the number 4 ranked guy, right? Cheeto does not deserve to be ranked number 4. They did the same thing with Max Holloway when they put him at number 9 too. After smoking Justin Gaethje. Smoked Justin Gaethje. Put him dead on the canvas. The number, what is he right now? Number 3, I think. He might be number 3. The number 3 guy was left dead in the center of the octagon by Max Holloway. Served on a plate. 5-star meal. And Max Holloway's ranked 6 spots under him. Like, how did they do the rankings? Michael Chandler just went up 1 spot in the rankings. Why? Who just moved? He hasn't fought in like a year and a half. Who moved him up? What did he do? Nothing. He just got boosted up because he's about to fight Conor. The way they do these rankings is actually baffling. It makes no sense. And now they've put Steve Erceg at 9, which makes no sense. If you go tit for tat with the current champion, and I know they rigged the scorecards and they had one of them saying 49-46. It was not 49-46, let alone 48-47. Okay? It was not 49-46. It was not 48-47. Right? It was 48-47 Erceg. Or 49-46 Erceg. It was not that dominant for Pantoja. Okay? Sorry to say. When you have a close fight and you win against the champion and then you're robbed against the champion, the UFC should recognize that. The UFC definitely knows, hey, damage-based scoring, Erceg won that, but because we're in Brazil, we'll give it to Pantoja. The UFC definitely knows that happened. At least give Erceg the respect of a top 5 ranking. The UFC definitely knows it was a robbery. The UFC knows it was a robbery. The UFC knows that if they weren't in Brazil, a lot of things would be different about that card. Like Michel Pereira's win would have been a no contest. Or Olby, or whatever his name is, the Homo habilis or whatever. His cage grab wouldn't have been a point deduction. A lot of BS that happens in Brazil would not have happened anywhere else in the world. So give Erceg a top 5 ranking position, man. Give him a position in the top 5. Give him a spot in the top 5. These rankings make zero sense. 0 cents. Anyways, those are my thoughts on matchups that should take place after 301. Pantoja will probably fight Mokaev. If Mokaev gets past Kape, I'll have to make a different video breaking down that fight because it just got announced like just now before I recorded this. And for Erceg, Moreno in the Sphere is his best course of action, and I would have to do a breakdown on that if that fight got announced. Separate video where I talk about who won. I'd probably lean towards Erceg, man. Moreno's last performance was kind of bad. That might just be recency bias, but Erceg, man, back in title talks. I believed in the Erceg upset, and I was right about the Erceg upset, but he got robbed. So I can't wait till he fights for the belt again and he becomes champion. And I can say that I was, from the beginning, on Team Erceg. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.